Richard Chase, also known as the Vampire of Sacramento, was an American serial killer who terrorized California in the late 1970s. He gained notoriety for his gruesome crimes, including multiple murders and acts of cannibalism. Chase's disturbing behavior and mental health issues, including his belief that he needed to consume blood to prevent his own blood from turning to powder, can be traced back to his dysfunctional childhood. Richard Chase showed signs of mental illness at a young age, but his father, a strict and sometimes physically abusive parent, did little to get him help. As Richard grew up, he displayed signs of cruelty towards animals, and at one point was kicked out of his father's house and turned to drugs and alcohol, which exacerbated his mental illness, so much so that he became convinced on several occasions that his heart had stopped beating and he was somehow a walking corpse. Fearing that he lacked vitamin C, he would press whole oranges to the skin of his forehead, believing that his brain would absorb the nutrients directly. But the strangest and most powerful of these delusions were the ones that involved his skull. He felt that his cranial bones had split apart and begun to shift beneath his skin, changing places and jumbling like puzzle pieces. He shaved his head in an effort to monitor their movements. At the age of 25, Chase was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and institutionalized in order to prevent him from becoming a danger to himself, after he was caught trying to inject himself with rabbit's blood, which made him violently ill. His fascination with blood earned him the nickname Dracula among the psychiatric hospital assistants who witnessed him kill and attempt to drink the blood of several birds in an effort to stop poison that was in his mind turning his blood into powder. Later on, Richard Chase would be released back into society after the hospital declared him rehabilitated, but this was just the start of another sinister chapter in Richard's life. His fascination with blood resurfaced, and he began capturing and killing small animals. He would eat them raw or blend their organs with soda and drink the mixture. Police also found Richard late one night in the Lake Tahoe area, covered in blood and a liver found inside a bucket. After determining the blood and organ belonged to a cow and not a human, Richard was let go. On January 27, 1978, Richard Chase entered the home of Evelyn Meroth through an unlocked door. Inside the home were her 6-year-old son Jason Meroth, her 2-year-old nephew David Ferreira, and a friend named Dan Meredith. Once inside the home, Richard met Dan Meredith in the hallway and shot him in the head. Immediately after doing so, he took his car keys as an escape plan once the murder spree was over. Evelyn and Jason were found in Evelyn's bedroom. The little boy had been shot twice in the head. Evelyn was partially cannibalized. Her stomach was cut open and she had multiple organs missing. There was also a failed attempt to remove one of her eyes, and her corpse had been sodomized. The baby, David Ferreira, whom Evelyn Meroth had been babysitting, was missing from the scene of the crime. The child's decapitated corpse was found months later behind a church. A neighbor would hear the commotion that was going on and took it upon himself to go knock at the door. Richard was startled and fled. The neighbor would alert police, and not long after, the authorities were able to identify Chase's prints in Meroth's blood. When the police searched Chase's apartment, they found that all of his utensils were stained with blood and his fridge contained human brains. Richard Chase was finally arrested. On December 26, 1980, Chase was found dead in his prison cell. An autopsy revealed that he killed himself with an overdose of prescribed medications.